Hi everyone, I hope you're well. I recently watched a new documentary on Netflix that deeply resonated with me. It's called The Social Dilemma. It doesn't reveal anything I didn't already know, but the timing of it reminded me to be mindful and gave me a reset in being woke about it all. Just the other day I was eating breakfast and I felt a tear fall down my cheeks from both eyes and I sat still. I realized something was wrong. I was either feeling depressed or anxious, definitely not well. It was coming from my smartphone use. I had been comparing myself to others on Instagram for a while, falling victim to the rabbit hole scrolling here and there, and feeling inadequate, especially now with more time due to the pandemic. That's when it registered for me that something needed to change, and I needed to regain some control over my mental health. It's around this time that I came across this film, and it validated what I had already sensed in my own experiences, thus inspiring today's episode. We are addicted to notifications, the sound of the phone ringing, flattered by photo tagging, and we boast about likes on our social media pages. I hope that today's video makes you rethink the apps on your phone and your screen time overall, just like the film The Social Dilemma has for me.
Oh my God, it's finally happening.
I'm in my mom's backyard. It's very nostalgic.
Aw.
Hey.
Hey. Good to see you. Is my audio okay? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, can you hear me good?
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. The sunshine helps a lot.
First of all, it's good to see you. I miss you.
Yes, it's good to see you. I miss you too.
I'm glad we're able to stay connected. It's kind of weird out here these days. And there's still people not wearing masks. It's okay, fine, I get you think COVID's a joke and everything, but there's literally smoke particles in the air.
I'm gonna let Darwinism
I just hope it starts kicking in soon.
Thank you for getting on the call with me about this.
You're welcome.
How many questions am I answering?
This topic interested me because it hit close to home in the last week. I did see that film that we talked about. I'm being affected emotionally. I had my own social dilemma. I was eating breakfast the other day and I shed tears silently. And I'm why am I so sad? I just felt overwhelmed, I think, by the news media and social media and people's highlight reels and just everything. I think was just triggering me at that point. So then I knew that I really needed to get back that sense of control. Obviously I was aware of it, but before I felt like I had a handle on it. I feel like I was too connected on social media during a time when I really just need to center myself and get deep reflection instead of just thinking about what everybody else is doing. And the more that I speak to people that allow themselves to be vulnerable with me, the more I realize that we're all kind of in the same boat, you know?
I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard about it.
I watched a bit and I was like, I need a break.
All right, let's start the questions.
Do you think that smartphones and social networks are affecting human behavior? And if so, how?
Smartphone. Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah.
That was a long question.
This is gonna be good. Okay.
Yes, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. 100%.
I definitely think that they are affecting our human behavior, more so mental.
Absolutely.
They're definitely affecting human behavior.
Absolutely. 1010%.
Yes, I do think so. Social media being something that people are so dependent on and something that I've felt that way too, that I've kind of been pulled into. I was really interested in how it's literally programmed to be addictive. So to be like a drug, that's why people spend so much time on it. You always feel like you have to keep checking it.
With smartphones and social media, everyone's really comparing themselves to each other. And you're comparing yourself to what you see on social media, not realizing that a lot of things that people portray on social media is not actual reality.
Not only do these apps control you in a way that you're constantly glued to them, they also control you in a way that's like advertising. We are a commodity. We are the product being sold here to advertising companies. Our data is being sold. These advertisements come up on your feed that are directly targeted and marketed towards you and your likes and your dislikes and all these things. You scroll past it. That doesn't mean that you didn't ingest it. You start seeing things that you're interested in based on what you're looking at. The more advertisements you see of certain things, the more you think about it. I just bought something on Instagram for this ad that's been popping up. And I'm like, damn it, it was a good deal.
I noticed for myself, someone who didn't grow up with a cell phone, I like started using one when I was like 17 or 18. I'll notice I won't pay as much attention to directions anymore. I just like need the address so I can put it in my phone. Like I don't have to do the whole turn right and then go 3 miles kind of thing. Mostly use it as a tool or as a distraction or something if I'm bored.
You sound like you manage it pretty well.
I try to. It takes a lot of conscious management though. I'll find myself getting carried away, usually with Instagram. I mean, I deleted Facebook 4 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
Because I got way too sucked into that and was just spending way too much time. It was really affecting my moods and stuff. Wow. And Instagram is like, I have good days and bad days with it.
So do I. I find that I don't really use Facebook, but definitely what you were describing when you were interacting with Facebook years ago is kind of what I fall into with Instagram.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, there's rabbit holes to get into and comment threads to jump into.
I can only really base it off of how it's affecting my behavior, and I assume that like that is what's happening with all of us. What goes on inside of you is probably more than likely going on inside of other people, and sometimes we might like forget that and feel like, oh my god, is it just me? But like I'm trying to practice knowing that we're connected. It's affecting how easily we can connect to other people, so our energies are that much more open for better and for worse. Like you are so receptive now. For me, it definitely is affecting my time management. Sometimes it's affecting how easily I am changed in terms of my energy throughout the day. I can kind of feel my vibe get affected by something I saw, something I heard, something I watched. You're really tied to other people. So you have to make these conscious decisions now to disconnect if you really need it. And sometimes you don't even know that you need it until you just are like, okay, wow, I didn't have my phone or whatever on me for 3 hours and it felt amazing.
There's the distraction almost, but then there's also, you know, what's trending, what you're seeing on social media. Of course that influences you. Like, yeah, people want to say, oh no, like I don't care. But at the end of the day, subconsciously, I think it does influence everything you do. And also like even simple things like, you know, like I was talking to my sister about this and how like my explore page is all like recipes now. And I'm like, wow, I need to start like following people that do fitness instead and start liking stuff about fitness instead and health, because like this is not healthy. Like I'm always on my explore page and seeing these crazy recipes and it gets me hungry and I'm like, oh, I should make that. Oh, I should do that.
My explore page makes me hungry too, but in a different kind of way, because it's pretty much just all men with 6-packs. It's ridiculous. It's literally all that and then Angelina Jolie. And it's like, what does Instagram think?
It has affected our attention span. Everyone, you know, has a shorter attention span. I very easily, if I'm bored with something, even with a film I'm watching, it's like my phone is right there. I can kind of grab it and be like, well, I'll just check Instagram for a couple minutes and see if this movie kind of grabs me a little more during this part where I'm like really bored. It does affect our socialization and that we're not used to having as many conversations face to face. Sometimes people use that as an extreme example, like older people, like baby boomers will say that about millennials and Gen Zers. They'll say that like, oh, they're just always on their phones. And they're always, the thing is that there's a lot of baby boomers that do that. I have people in my family that they're just like, they're way older than me. They're twice my age and they're always on their phone more than I am. And so I don't think it's necessarily an age thing.
We're constantly on it. Like I even see, it's crazy because like my mom is a baby boomer, but she's more on her phone than I am now. Sometimes I'm like, mom, you got to stop. Like she's an overshare mom. So like she will like take pictures of everything. And like, I noticed that has changed like her behavior because I'll be out to eat or something with her. Like, I'm like, mom, do you hear what yeah, I hear you. And she's just like sitting there, like scrolling on her newsfeed. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, isn't it supposed to be the other way around?
Right.
We're used to virtually connecting a lot more. It does change how we connect face to face. Making eye contact with people seems to be a really hard thing. Some of my friends have said that they struggle with sustained eye contact.
That's very interesting.
When people are commenting, sometimes they either don't have the full context or don't understand what the other person was saying in the first place. So they're going off in their direction without even comprehending.
Right.
Or they do get it and they're just trying to get a rise out of that specific person or something.
It's very different. It's different hearing somebody's tone and hearing how they're saying it and seeing how they're reacting compared to just getting a text. Someone can say the word bitch, but they could be like, bitch, or they can be like, bitch. So it's just like social media, like just writing that word, just seeing that word can be translated or taken so many ways. So it just depends on the headspace you're in that you're going to take the meaning of someone's word or conversation. So it is hard communicating on social media.
These ex-employees and executives from these like app companies and tech companies, they don't let their children have any screen time or social media. What do you make of that?
it's a good and bad thing.
You said no screen time?
Wow, I actually didn't know that.
So surprised about that.
I think that's really telling.
I think it's tricky because it's, they are protecting them in a way, but at the same time, I feel like they're going to be out of the loop.
Good, because then they are sort of protecting their mental health. But on the other hand, screen time, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing, because also with social media, it does give you the opportunity to meet and interact with people that you would not have the chance to otherwise. So taking that away in this day and age, especially like with what's going on with the pandemic, I feel like that's sort of isolating the kids a lot. I do believe in restricting the time and not allowing them to have all their time on social media, though.
I think that's really telling, and that does say a lot about how pervasive these sites are and how they can really mess with your mind. We're being programmed by these sites to make us stay on them longer and longer. I think that's telling, but it also sounds really smart. If I were a parent, I wouldn't want my kids to have social media at any time, but probably especially before they were like a full adult, before they were 18.
So crazy that we are thinking of being so preventative with young people, and yet we're doing it ourselves as adults, trying to manage the emotional and behavioral roller coaster that comes with it.
So I do think we should have some restrictions, because on the internet there's so many things that they can see. And I think as a parent, you should have more conversations with your child before they're just seeing all these different types of things that they've never seen before. There's pros and there's cons to being so restrictive, but I do also think that social media also can help educate you, and it can be beneficial in a way, but it's just like too much of it, and too much of it at a young age could really be hurtful and damaging. So I can understand why people do that.
Mm-hmm.
So much of our world, unfortunately, now revolves around these social media apps. Like a lot of business is done on social media apps. A lot of connections are made. Classes are being done on Zoom. All these different like apps, Gmail, like Google, like most people have a Google account for their work, for their business. So like I feel like keeping their kids off of these accounts, it's helping and hurting in the same way that social media helps and it hurts. Like social media, all these different apps were built with goodness in mind. They weren't built for ultimate destruction. They were built to help. They were built to bring people together. And unfortunately, there's like the huge downfall of it. But I think these like big CEOs and these owners and these people that work for these companies protecting their children from these apps, it's like, I think it is helping them and hurting them. I think it's difficult to survive in our world today without using them, because so many things revolve around it now.
This is sort of like a pattern now, because I think it was Ted Turner or somebody like that from TV who said that he recommends not raising your kids on television. It's that kind of irony that these people work in these industries, yet they're not having their children grow up in that. So I find that kind of ironic.
It's ironic because it's like, the damage that it's causing to the point where you hide your kids from it, but you still work there.
Right.
If you're not allowing your own children to consume this type of stuff, how are you going to work every day? Like, if you really know how terrible it is to the point where you won't even let your own children watch and engage, how are you going to work every day when you know you're doing this to other people?
Unfortunately, you got to make money somehow in this world. So
yeah,
why not doing it by harming others? I'm just kidding.
So I have a brother, and he's like 12. My dad asks me all the time, like, I don't know how to navigate this. Like, he wants to play video games. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. And I really just want him to like be focused in the moment with his friends, play outside. I don't really know what I make of it. It's hard either way. Sooner or later, that's their new way of connecting, like TikTok is with my cousins and people that are, younger than me. Like, that's their form of connection. They'll sit in the same room and just kind of scroll, and then once in a while show each other something they found. I don't know. What do you think? Is that part of this? What does Alex think?
Oh, I think. I think like me as an adult is like struggling sometimes with this. And I have more awareness through just maturing and having that awareness. Like, I'm able to make adjustments. I'm able to change my habit, but only after I've caught it and been intentional about making that adjustment. But I don't know if children or younger people are equipped to handle, what social media like presents them with, if they lack that kind of awareness,
Yeah, I don't think as a kid I would have been able to say, well, I need more balance right now, and I need to, I probably wouldn't know what that word.
Of course not, because you remember going through your 20s and discovering new ways of thinking, books, audiobooks, whatever, and you learn the tools and techniques to like get present, center yourself, and all these things. And we didn't do that in middle school. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
you didn't know that you had, like, you wouldn't know until it was like so many months probably down the line that you're like, I don't feel good. You wouldn't know those little triggers. Right now, I think we are at a point, both of us, where we could say like, something feels off. I need to not, why am I, wow, I've been staring,
Exactly.
no wonder I feel like shit.
That's
I've been
the
staring
awareness.
at my phone for 6 hours.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's the awareness that we have that I don't think younger people have. They don't have the awareness to go, I'm feeling like crap. Why? Like they don't question it. They just go, I'm feeling like crap. There must be something wrong with me.
Totally. I don't know what I would do if I were a parent. I probably would want to have my kid held off from that and try to find a way to introduce it in like a more healthy way, if that's possible, and explain the boundaries with it and, you know, address it. And this is part of our life today, though. Class is online, you know, life is on, like, so much of life is online right now. So I feel like there has to be a way to introduce it. You know, you can't be void of it completely. It's tough.
When I was younger, we'd like watch one movie a week on the TV. And we'd play music a lot.
I didn't grow up with cable. My dad didn't want us to have all that stuff.
It was very restricted. iPads and all weren't a thing when I was a child. It's happening, so we'll see what it does.
Do you think we are more in an age of information or misinformation?
Look, these are so good. Right before the election, too. I want to say misinformation.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think both.
I definitely believe it's an age of misinformation.
I think it's both. It's just a matter of like deciphering.
Oh. It's a little home to me here. We're definitely in an age of misinformation to the point where it's driving people bananas.
I feel like humans have always been battling misinformation, whether it's like the person running in from the battlefield who says all is lost and whatever. And it's like, well, no, actually you were just behind a rock. That's theoretical. But like now it's those people who are like shitposting, throwing words out and not caring or whatever. But it also is like actually incorrect. And then there are people who like one kind of assumes are lying on purpose, like 45 and all of his Republican cronies.
I know.
Do you think we're not recording you? I think it's a continued battle against misinformation.
Now more than ever.
It's sort of like, you know, the game of telephone where somebody hears one thing and then, you know, they pass it on to the next person, but something's wrong. And then by the time it gets down to the last person, it's a completely different story. You know, that can happen with social media or just even the media not reporting all the facts, or, you know, having news articles that are misleading or like clickbaiting and scaring people without, you know, all of the facts. We are in a day and age where technology allows us to get access to information quicker and access to a lot more information, but with the passing and sharing of the information, that's where the misinformation comes into play.
Misinformation spreads much more quickly than real fact-checked correct information. Misinformation spreading like wildfire, and the people that are putting out this misinformation, they're doing it in a way that makes it look very believable, that makes it look very real. This whole like social media stuff, like to us it feels old because we kind of grew up with it, but it is still, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty new. So like we're still growing and learning how to consume information from these platforms. A lot of these people that are putting out misinformation are really doing it in a skillful way that tricks a lot of people, especially the older generation. Like a lot of my family members that are old, they don't know how to decipher fact from fiction. They don't know how to decipher a real article versus like a scam, you know? Like in school, I was taught, you know, like one of my majors is journalism. And so we had to do a lot of research for like papers and stuff. And we always had to search scholarly articles on Google. And we were taught how to decipher what's an opinion piece versus a fact piece. This is a skill set that I've learned. And I'm sure like other people our age growing up have just learned to do on their own. And I think the older generation, because this was just all thrown at them, they're not able to decipher what's fact from fiction, and it causes a big divide that we're experiencing now.
In families and in society as a whole.
Yeah.
There's true information out there. We still have access to all these legitimate news sites, but there's also a lot of misinformation. So we have to get better at deciphering that. That's also a generational divide where a lot of millennials are better at deciphering what's fake news and what's not than their parents and older people, because older people are used to, I think, the time before social media and the internet in general, where if something was printed in a newspaper, it was accurate. You know, it was peer reviewed. Aside from satire and The Onion and stuff, there weren't all these like fake things coming out. So they're just like, yeah, if you read something on a news site, it must be true. People of our age are a little bit better. We can usually see through that easier. And it's like, oh, there's no source or author or date, or it's from like several years ago. It's not like current information, or, you know, it's a very biased website. We can generally see through that a little bit more. We know what to check.
There is still like remnants of that's passed down to our current generation. Like there's still a bunch of people that might look at propaganda and go, that's the truth. I agree with this person because it simply aligns with their value system or their belief system in some way.
Yeah, it's not to say that millennials or younger people are perfect at it. I think we're just a little bit better at it, but we still, I mean, I know I fall prey to it, like confirmation bias. People share all this like political stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I agree with that.
There's a lot of people online who either just post shit just to put it out there. It might not even be how they personally feel or something, but it's like, it's something and they're throwing it out into the world and seeing what the reaction is and stuff. And that can range from like a cute little kitty video to really disgusting, violent stuff that people are just like, oh, let me shit post this and like throw it out there. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. It's like, not everything on the internet is even like someone's belief or something. A lot of it's just garbage that I happily will report as spam. I'm like, all right, people are gonna throw this stuff out there. I'm gonna go clean it up when I see it. That's trash. Goes in the trash. Bye. Clean up the internet a little bit. I know it's like trying to clean up the plastic in the ocean, but like, so that helps me feel a little better about it. What is this bullshit that people are spouting? I go into Google, look it up, research it. I'm like, oh fuck, this is. But people don't even do that for like basic shit. So like, why would they do it for anything else? When I was little, the ability to learn was a skill that my mom wanted to teach me when she was homeschooling. Like, don't just learn certain things, learn how to learn.
I think it's so much information on the internet that people they don't know how to weed out what's fake and what's real. We have so many things and so many opinions that's like constantly, thrown at us. You don't know what are the facts, It is hard like looking up information on the internet because you don't know what's true.
There's a lot of misinformation out there, but there's also a lot of information. I don't know, I lean towards the information more than the misinformation. I think there's a misconception that there's a lot of misinformation because people don't do their research.
Right, it's almost like not even monitored as well as the other forms of media.
Yeah, but because social media has such a high influence on us, like that has way more influence on us than any other types of media outlets. It's kind of dangerous, honestly.
And it's much easier to like post your message and spread it.
I think the biggest problem is people being able to share it and then tweak it. You could easily screenshot something, edit it, and then repost it, and people will think it's the original post. It's like a game of telephone almost.
Right.
By the end, it's like not even the real post, and that's scary because there's so many people that will believe it, and it's not even the correct thing.
Absolutely. Like in the documentary, some guy showed up to, I think it was a restaurant with like a gun or something, and it was because he was convinced that there was human trafficking happening in the basement of that restaurant, and he was going to come and free those children.
That's insane.
On so many levels, we are informed on a medical level, in a lot of ways a scientific level, but we are fed so much crap, and it's so easy for them, whoever they are, to spread it. It's just so easy to also like with cancel culture right now in this time, like people are very antsy, people are very angry. There's a lot boiling down with good reason. Everyone's attached to the phone. Everyone's like, and myself included, like I'm not saying this to judge. It's just like what it is. It's like you feel like if you don't have your phone, you're just like exiled. You don't know what's going on. But really, what is going on? Because this whole kind of cancel culture right now, where it's so easy to just say like this person did this. You don't really have the proof for it all the time. This person did this, or this person sucks, or this part, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, they're done. They're news. Like that's misinformation in my opinion, because you don't always have the information to back it up. You don't have evidence. I don't know. I want to say misinformation. I think it's both. I think there's a lot of beauty right now in being so connected. It's just a lot of stuff that's not true, right? And it can be very confusing.
Stories are getting spread really quickly, whether or not they're true, especially conspiracy theories that we've seen very recently.
Even I've had moments where I'm like, could this be true?
Yeah, and you gotta go and check. You're like, how do I verify this information?
Because a lie told many times starts to feel like truth.
I've heard that too. The more you hear something, the more it's just like, oh yeah, that sounds right. It's like those myths that get perpetuated because a lot of people repeat them and you're just like, oh yeah, someone told me this and someone told me that. And then you look it up or you find out later that that's a myth or it's like an urban legend that's just always passed on.
Like that the earth was flat.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I think it does, like social media especially really adds to that spread of misinformation.
So do you think it's undermining our democracy?
I do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I definitely think so.
I think our democracy is probably stronger for technology and social media and the internet.
And how do you think that that's affecting our democracy?
It's just creating a whole thing where like people are not really informed, especially when it comes to really important topics and things like that, really important news. And people form opinions, or they base their actions off of the misinformation that they're hearing, which in turn causes more confusion and problems and things like that.
The consequences of fake news is just making people confused, and you control people. So by not giving them the proper or right information, they can't make, informed like decisions or judgments. You know what I mean? Like, we can't make smart decisions without being fully aware of what's going on. And I think that's a way to control people. It's to control the narrative. It's to control the story. So if you can put out a fake story that's in your control, then you're benefiting and you have power of people not knowing something.
Even just with like the political race, social media is playing a huge part in this race compared to other races. Like, yes, we've had social media in other political races, but this one specifically has been extremely influenced by social media. It's important to realize that like some people are like going to vote because of the stuff they see on social media. It sounds like almost communistic, but like I honestly wish that political stuff wasn't on social media. Like if it wasn't allowed to be, because I don't feel like it's like fair.
Especially with this whole with Ginsburg passing, and they weren't going to, when it was Obama and his and he was in office, they didn't want to replace anybody, and now it's like all of a sudden it's like that, them saying that didn't even exist. I think we really need to like exercise our right to vote, and I think that's like that will determine like, is our democracy actually intact? Like, is there democracy anymore? Like, we will see. Like, this is going to be very telling.
I think it's really hard to like have a conversation these days. Not for me, because I feel like I'm very open to like listening, and I do a lot more listening.
Really good at conversing.
Just like really good. No, I'm more of a listener than I am a talker, so I feel like it's easier for me to listen. Although I am feeling more reactive lately when people who really feel so strongly about what they think, and it's usually like on the opposing side,
right? Yeah,
meaning conservatively. They're just like very, very much like pushing their belief systems, and that's like the right way. That is like the only belief or the only truth. And I believe we live in a world that might have more than one truth. But yeah, I think it's really hard to like have conversations nowadays. It seems like everybody's just living in their own little bubble, and they show up to a rally and then it's like, oh wow, I didn't know you existed, or oh wow, I didn't know all of you were together, So you're seeing a lot of like groups.
And I think a lot of those conservative people who are really like stuck in their belief system, it's hard for them to have an open mind, because in a way it's their safety net. Their belief system is what they grew up on. That's what they've known. It's kind of like asking them to change their perspective and like have an open mind and kind of like adjust to our younger generation's point of view is kind of like throwing them to a whole new culture and like having them be culture shocked. And like, it's like, no, I just want to go back to what I know. I want to go back to like my safety net. They're so closed off to like us as a new generation coming up with these ideas and like hitting them with facts. I think they're so afraid to be wrong and so afraid for their safety net to be shattered.
I see you referencing like family members that you're thinking of, like from the baby boomer generation. And I think that's valid. And I think when we think about like white supremacists or people who are just more conservative, we are thinking of those like older white kind of cisgender heteronormative people. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, I also have cousins who are also pretty conservative, and they're my age and there are of our generation. So It's across the board.
Right, because it's not only a generational thing, it's also a geographical thing. Like in New York City, our point of view is becoming more and more progressive. It's becoming more and more liberal. I think a lot of places are a little slower to transform. I just visited my father in Pennsylvania, like right in the smack middle of Pennsylvania. And it's like everywhere is like Trump flags, and there was a poster that said "All Lives Matter," and I was just like, "Oh my God, Twilight Zone! Like, where am I?" He's like, "Let me show you my guns." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa! I'll shoot it, but I don't condone it."
Yeah, my cousin took me shooting once.
I was shook. I felt like I was being insensitive by finding joy in shooting a gun. We were just shooting at a target in the woods, But like, I felt like I was insensitive by even just doing that because of the climate and the state of the world right now. It was very bizarre for me, and I don't believe I'll do it again unless it's for like an acting gig.
What do you think a maximum amount of screen time is reasonable in a day on social media?
Maximum a day, 0. No.
It depends on the day.
I would probably say like no more than 2 hours. And even then, that's kind of like a lot.
4 to 5 hours is normal. Okay. I would love to get down to 3 hours, 3 to 2.
For like enjoyment or like business and enjoyment or what? For enjoyment, honey, you better cut it at an hour. Who does that? Not me. I'll be on it all day.
I would say like an hour. And I only say 2 hours because people like myself that are like influencers or bloggers or whatever, it's kind of hard to limit the screen time when you factor in like posting stories or posts and interacting with other people and stuff. But if you're not doing any of that, then probably just an hour is sufficient.
Yeah, which still seems like a lot if you're trying to do a bunch of other stuff in your day.
I mean, I also count screen time as computer time, which
Oh.
I'm doing for work. 18 inches away from this 32-inch monitor, plus my laptop monitor, plus my phone. You know, it makes me feel kind of bad when I want to sit down and watch a TV show at the end of the day to relax or something. I'm like, well, this is just more screen time.
It's getting to me.
Yeah, I had my eyes checked a couple months ago. These are new glasses because my prescription's worse.
You're on it longer because you're working. You're an actress.
Right, I use it for work. My Instagram is in a way a portfolio of me as an artist, especially in like the entertainment industry. It's so important to have all these different social media platforms and really have your brand present on these platforms, because when you're auditioning for a gig and if the studio is choosing between one person who has a following and one person who doesn't, they're going to choose the one with the following because it's immediate fans of the show. You know what I mean? I always have like agents and managers like nagging me about my social media. And a lot of times casting will be like, how many followers do you have? Send links to your social accounts. It's hard as an artist or anyone in an industry that needs to use social media for their work. It's hard for them to really find that balance of how much time they're spending for like recreation versus work.
This is what I wish.
Yes.
I wish that there was a day of the week. How amazing would that be? All across the globe, social media, it's like turned off and it does it for you. It doesn't work on Sundays. That would be amazing. I really think that would be really good.
A day of rest.
A day of rest, because it's like mine. And I understand, like, for what we do, like, you feel like
You have to have a presence.
you have to have a presence and you have to post and all of that. It depends on how you're using it, but if you really are spending mind-numbing energy on it, I do it, it's no judgment, but it's like there's probably things that we could do that are better for our soul with that time. Maybe give yourself 15 minutes in the morning, look at what you need to look at, check in again, maybe. After you've connected and all of that, get into your zone, meditate, do your day, go about your day, establish some sort of a rhythm if you can. Or if it's an off day, it's an off day and there's always tomorrow.
So you would say like an hour, 2 hours a day is like normal?
It really is crazy. It sounds like a lot, right? But I think that if you're using it for your business, like you are, like I am, then I think that there's a lot of things that happen on social media that can network you and kind of move you along towards your goal.
I wanted to see if you could show me like what your actual screen time number is on Instagram.
Hold on. Let me see if I can get it. Okay. So mine is 2 hours and 3 minutes daily.
Okay.
I don't know if that's good or scary.
That's pretty healthy, I think. Depends on what you think.
I mean, it's kind of overwhelming to think that I spend that much of my life. I think it's a lot. If I could bring that number down to 1 hour, I'd be very happy. I would feel like I'm just using it for work. That was really overwhelming. Thank you, Alex. 2 hours?
Just to check in with yourself.
That's a lot of time. I could be like doing a lot more with that.
When I was a little kid, I used to be so busy doing things, and I was so busy at connecting with myself and other people, and I feel like sometimes the phone gets in the way of that. Like, I know there'll be days where I'm just bored, especially during quarantine, and I'm just scrolling. I'm looking at content, and I'm like, there are other ways I can be learning about things. There's other ways I can be engaging with people, and there's other ways I can be sharing my work. So it's just like finding those ways to really, really connect with people in a real way, other than just like surface lines.
Spiritual level, I hate social media.
Me too.
But I do it to market myself. If I could, I would delete all my social media. I wish I could just like not have a cell phone, honestly, sometimes, and just like get a freaking cabin in the woods and retreat from like the world. It sounds crazy, but that's like my spirit talking. And then like, real world kicks in. I'm like, nah, I can't do that.
I think if we all just say like, okay, this is what it is. How can I be better tomorrow? So tomorrow I'm not spending 2 hours. You just helped me. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
You just helped me.
I love you.
I think I need to reduce for sure. But if I tell myself no, I'm not allowed, then I know I'm going to like binge it one day.
We just got to be on top of it because like you said, you added up. How many hours is that in a week, in a month, in a year? And
what was your number?
Oh, okay. It says daily average 1 hour, 57 minutes.
Okay, so we're similar. I'm more than you.
Yeah, you're a little addicted, I think. Well, it averages out because like, Friday it was like 56 minutes, but then my biggest day was Sunday. Apparently that was 3 hours and 22 minutes. Did I need that much?
But see, it's like probably not, but then, if you're watching something, like for me, I love going and looking at people's mood boards and like, I get inspired. We have to do our thing, but if you're using it to inspire yourself, then like maybe those, maybe the hour is a good hour. But it's probably not, because we're probably doing it because we're anxious. So
How much time do you think you spend on Instagram a day?
Let me check.
Well,
'cause
no,
my
I
iPhone
want your
tells me.
answer before you check.
Okay. On Instagram per day, I don't know, probably like an hour or two. Let's see, daily average 1 hour and 39 minutes.
Okay.
It's my average. Oof.
So you were kind of right.
Yeah, sometimes it's like 2.5 hours.
When you think about like your schedule and like if you're thinking about productivity, like can you imagine just going, okay, yeah, I'm gonna dedicate 2.5 hours today to Instagram? Like,
These days I can because I'm not going to a coffee shop. That is my socialization.
right.
So I justify it to myself sometimes with that. But like overall grand scheme of things, when I look back on my life at 80, do I want to have spent less time on my phone? Yeah, it's there. It's something that I do use, I want to keep in my life, but I have to consciously manage.
It can feel like an addiction for sure. So it would be kind of unfair to ask you like what your actual like screen time number is on Instagram, like what your average.
Can I check? Should I check right now? If I'm busy all day, I'm not on it as much, which is nice because I'm like in real time, like doing real time things. But if I'm off for the day and I'm just having the day relaxing, after 5 hours, I'm like, put the phone in the drawer, put it on airplane mode, get it away from me.
Last time I knew it was like 5 hours. 5 hours, like 45 minutes. And I was like, I know where I spent that. Like, I spent that on Twitter. I'd spend it on Instagram, looking at my friends' posts, liking, putting hearts, comments, reading memes, all of it. All these things, add up.
I'm trying to focus more on being a creator versus a consumer of content.
As an artist, you're always promoting your stuff, and you're always sharing your stuff, and you're always engaging with people. So I feel like most of it is that, but then also it's me looking at other creators' ideas and being inspired. Like you said, being inspired by their work. And I'm like, oh, how can I do a visual with a glass mirror, but make it more me and have it dancing? So it's just like seeing other people's content too and being inspired by that. So it's like half and half. But I'm really trying to get to the point where I'm a little bit more focused on myself more and not what's so much of what's going on or keeping up with things. Because I do think as people and as creators, we try to keep up with times and we try to see what's going on. But then it's also like, what's important to you? Just you, without anybody's thoughts, nobody's ideas, none of these trending things. What are your favorite things that you want to share with the world? And I think I just really want to slowly get back to like that.
What do you think constantly staring at a screen full of apps does to our mental health?
I have a hard time sometimes looking at things like that and feeling good about myself. But I'm someone who pretty regularly tries to consciously check in and see how I'm feeling about stuff and think about, okay, everything that's presented to me probably has a filter on it, is taken from the right angle. They picked it out of like at least 5 different shots and this is the best one. Like I know what goes into the creation of media. So it allows me to be critical of whatever I'm looking at when I remember to be.
So social media and smartphones, it's creating this whole realm of people that are just aspiring to be like the next fake person. And, people just not really being true to themselves.
How do you see yourself in that world?
In the beginning, I definitely was kind of buying into that whole, like, I need to follow what everyone else is doing or look what this person, like, I was comparing myself a lot to other people. And then when I really realized that, like, all that stuff is fake or, people are not really being true to themselves, then I just stopped believing in that. And I started, saying like, I need to be more true to myself and portray really like what's going on with me and what my reality is. So I've taken that and I've tried to sort of spin it so that like people are not aspiring to be something that I'm not even.
Not so aspirational that it seems like unattainable.
Yes, exactly.
I wonder how people who aren't trained to pick up on that kind of stuff absorb it. Yeah, this dude looks really hot and everything, but like, is that something I actually want to look like? No. Because when I started to look at it, I'm like, so they lengthened that leg and they puffed this and they shifted that. No, I don't want to be like that.
And that's why men are probably having body dysmorphia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point, society, I assume, is aware, at least on a basic function, that like women are airbrushed and photoshopped. People don't talk about men being photoshopped and everything. And it's like, well, yeah. And male models have just as many eating disorders. We're animals with a brain that gets trained a certain way based on the visual input and stuff. We got to be careful what we feed our minds.
Even stuff like about posting, when I tell myself, oh, I don't want to post, I feel awkward, or is this good or whatever, I don't even view, or am I going to get likes, or am I going to get blah, 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 like all the things that we think about when we are nervous, especially as introverts. I'm trying to tell this to myself. When you want to make those songs with this person, or you want to like write something, they're going to go back to your page because they want to know who you are. So your grid is kind of like your modern day resume. It doesn't have to say you went to this place or you do this, but it's kind of like, hey, this is me. And like, what's up? That's your grid.
That's what I'm trying to do with my stuff. It's like my ideal image of like what I imagine my energy and essence to be. And I'm trying to put that vibe and story out there.
I try to now realize that it can be fun if you just do it how you want to do it, and you don't
Right.
have to like force yourself to do it by anybody else's like style. And it's another way to like express yourself, but it freaks me out. I think everybody does. Like, I get nervous to post. I don't know if it's cute. I don't know what people are gonna think, but then you gotta just like get all of that out of your mind and just say, I'm sharing this today because this is how I'm feeling, or I feel I want to ask a question, or I want to pose an idea, or this is a cool look, or like whatever you want to do, like then you got to kind of use it for that. But back to the question, some days I don't get inspired. Some days I feel like shit after. So like if you feel we have to be connected to ourselves and know, like, why am I doing this right now? I don't know. When it becomes like an obsession, which I've been there, I've been in funks that I'm like, why am I not doing what this person does? Or why am I not in the Greek islands or blah, blah, blah? Or why am I, when it becomes self-deprecating, that's when it's not healthy anymore.
Looking at the screen light itself, I definitely know it does, or I've read information about how it does keep you awake at night. It's not good for you at night because it can stimulate a gland that makes you more awake. I think the apps can be harmful, and I think it does really bring you down. You talked about early on, it's very much a comparison thing. You're looking at everyone's highlight reel. You might be sitting there in your pajamas or in your bad hair day, or you just lost a job, whatever. There's like all these reasons why you might be down. And someone else is like, oh, I just went on vacation. I just got this new outfit, or I'm just looking flawless today. Like, I woke up like this. That can really affect you. And when it comes to kids, and I think because young teenagers, maybe even younger, are starting on social media now, that would really negatively affect them mentally, because that comparison is really hard when you're in school. Like, I remember being in high school and like seeing those comparisons just like in person, because this was before social media, before it really took hold. There was like the MySpace and stuff. But now it's like they have those comparisons in person at school, and then they go home and they got it on their phone or computer and stuff. They can constantly be looking at it. And then I think it does also open a lot more doors for cyberbullying. I remember that being an issue when I was in school. It was like sort of a newer topic, and some kids have like taken their own lives and all this stuff because of cyberbullying. Now it's just, there's so many more apps and sites and different sources for that to happen. Kids have phones now that just can be constant. So I can see that being an issue too.
Yeah. Well, they actually said in the documentary that there are some crazy statistics, something like, I think it was like a 60 to 70% increase in suicide among teenage girls, or young girls, like maybe like preteen. It was like 180% of a spike.
How? Preteen?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
That was after social media apps became available on the cell phones.
11-year-olds aren't supposed to be on social media. You're supposed to be like, 13 at least or something? When it's a child of 11 years of age or something, like, there's still the responsibility of their parent at that point. And it's up to the parent to, like, if you can't figure out how to work the technology to make sure that your kid isn't accessing this stuff, enforce screen time or something. Instead of like half an hour of TV time or something, it's half an hour of iPad time or something.
Right. And I've heard my cousin, with her kids, she's like, no, you already had like your screen time for today. And the kid's like, no, but I want screen time. Like, I want screen. And it's funny. I was like, screen time. Like,
It's a thing now.
I see kids on the tablets, kids on the iPads, and like with the phones, and they're just like totally entranced. I'm glad I didn't have like a childhood like that.
Yeah, me too.
I also can't now. I know it as an adult, like how I'm balancing it all and navigating it all. I know that it's better for me if I just put it down.
As humans, it's normal to want to be liked. It's normal to want to be loved. Social media only shows people's desires of wanting to be liked a lot more than what they actually are. We need to work on our insides a lot more, including myself, like all of us. It feels good when someone likes your stuff, but it's just like, it should feel better when you just love it. And that should be just like enough. We have to erase these thoughts that, tell us or define what we can or cannot be, because only we are in control of it, and I've fallen victim of it before. We all do. But I think it's like up to us to like do the work when we start feeling those emotions, because those emotions are normal. Like, you judge yourself and you see other people and you're like, what is special about me? You know what I mean? And I think it's up to us to really understand what is special about you. Like your shortness or you being different in a room might be the reason why you get picked. So just learning that and just working on it daily has been like a struggle. Because I think a lot of people have these personas like they're so perfect, they don't go through anything, they're just like everything's well. And it's just like, it's nice to also share that like we get rejected, we fail hard, like we fall hard on our asses, like we are not perfect. We have these bad thoughts and that it's okay, that you can like learn from it and grow from it. We all go through wanting validation and wanting love and wanting to be respected.
A lot of times I will delete my social media apps from my phone because
Really?
I can see how glued I am to it. Because deleting the app, it doesn't delete your account, it just deletes the app from your phone. So I'll do that. The other day, I literally put my phone on airplane mode and put it in my kitchen drawer. This is the shit you gotta do. I don't have push notifications enabled for my social media apps because I know that that's a psychological thing that these apps do. These heads of these companies, they get to your psyche. They work off that dopamine hit that you get from the push notifications. So I'm like, I'm smarter than you. I'm gonna shut them off. So I got that shit in the bud. So I shut off the push notifications, but still, there's still some kind of psychological stuff they got going on because still, even when I don't have the push notifications, I look and I see the phone on the table and I'm like, let's just see what's on there. So a lot of times I have to delete the apps from my phone and I still find myself picking up the phone and going to the app and I'm like, oh, right, I deleted it. The only push notifications I have on my Instagram account is for the Instagram accounts that post free furniture on the street because, you know, your girl likes to stoop some free furniture.
That's smart.
Otherwise, no push notifications for any apps. If I find myself being too attached to the phone and it's distracting, I'll delete the app from my phone and re-download it later. That's basically it. And then putting the phone in a drawer.
I'm trying a few things. I'm not great at it, but like I said, I've been working on this new habit, which I've been doing well the last several weeks. I'm in the habit now of not checking my phone for the first hour or two of my day. Even if I have text messages or email alerts or whatever, won't open anything until like I've kind of gotten ready, I've had breakfast, and then I'll read for a little bit. I read a book.
Nice.
And then I'm not as consistent with this part, but sometimes I will check like Instagram and text messages and stuff for the first time. And usually I'll put on music during that. So I'm trying to like create the habit of making it really intentional versus just like checking it whenever I have a free second, whenever I'm bored or something, but really being like, okay, now I'm going to give myself some time to check Instagram, but it's not going to be all day, all the
Right.
time.
Yeah, it should be something that's intentional. Like when you sit down to email, like that's an intentional block of time. You're not checking your phone for your socials to fill in every little gap in your schedule.
Exactly.
That's every little gap is an opportunity for you to be stuck on it for like 15, 20, 30 minutes, slowly chewing up your productivity schedule.
Sometimes it's just about leaving my phone on the other side of the room.
Lately, I've been trying not to go on my phone as soon as I wake up. I used to sleep with my phone next to my pillow or like on my bed. And that has changed drastically. I've learned that it's like terrible for you. Like when I'm ready to go to bed, even if I'm like gonna watch a movie before I go to sleep or do anything else like read or something, I make sure that as soon as I hit the bed, the phone is not in my hand anymore. I'll put the phone somewhere further away from me to charge. It won't be like near my nightstand or like reachable to me in bed. And that helps me with not looking at my phone in the morning too. This is recent, but I'm trying to do that.
I started trying to implement that too ever since this documentary. I was like, nope, I cannot wake up with my eyelids half closed, like looking at my phone for 40 minutes and then waking up and feeling like a truck hit me.
It also affects how you feel. Like it affects your mood because let's say you wake up and like, you know, if you're an influencer, like you might read your comments or you might read like something like, and you see something negative and then you wake up on a negative note because you're like before you even get up and brush your teeth, you're already feeling like shit.
Right.
That's not healthy. You should be able to wake up and feel however you want to feel before somebody influences you to feel a certain way.
So you should prime yourself before reacting to anything. But I failed today.
We're human. You post something late at night and you're like, fuck, let me see what happened by the, you know, and overnight while I was sleeping.
I'm like, let me just drop this on them and then go to sleep and wake up and be like, I'm popular.
Another great tip, not only not touching your phone when you wake up, but try to brush your teeth before you touch your phone. Try to do something before you touch your phone. Like I'll have a cup of kombucha before like I do anything. I'll just go in my living room, sit down in the peace and quiet, not put anything on, have my kombucha. And when I'm done, then I'm like, okay, now I can start my day. And it really helps me to like regroup and to just have a little bit of peace before you start going on social media.
Because if I'm checking it the first thing in the morning, I'm like, my mind's there. It's like not really present and like really thinking for myself. Do you deal with that distraction issue or are you good about it?
I definitely do deal with distraction for sure. But for me, what I do is, okay, it is bad, but like when I wake up, then I will reach for my phone and like check Instagram and Facebook, but it's sort of like, let me get the urge out of the way really quick. And I'll say like, okay, for 15 minutes, let me see what's going on or if anything happened. And then I go about my day. And then like at lunchtime, then I'll check. And then in the evening. So by then I'm not like pressed to really sit there and be on my phone for an hour. And even that, like I get tired and then I'm like, what am I doing? Wasting my time. So yeah, I just take a few minutes here and there. But I put like time limits. Like I said, like 15 minutes here. Okay, this is lunchtime. Like 20 minutes here. And then at the end of work, okay, like another half hour or something.
So you seem to have it pretty under control.
Sometimes.
Okay.
When I have a schedule and I'm working and things like that, I'm definitely not checking my phone at all. The problem is more so when I'm not doing anything or I have like a free schedule or I'm chilling at home.
Do you ever worry that checking it in the morning will like affect the rest of your day?
No, I don't think so. It doesn't really, yeah, not for me. I know it is a bad habit though. You shouldn't reach for your phone like the first thing that you do when you get up. But for me, like I said, it's like getting that urge out of the way and then I don't feel like I need to check my phone for anything for the rest of the beginning of my day.
I'll usually put it like up by my bed. I go up there, it's on silent, and I'll consciously try to like leave it in the other room or something. That's why I like going hiking and stuff too. I don't have surface in the mountains. Once I get past a certain point, well, just me and the dog.
I will put my phone far away from me, like far, like very far. Like I'll be on the other side of the room.
I've been going on airplane mode and like I've been doing much better to control my behavior. So, and my habits. I've definitely felt a couple degrees better in the last couple days. So I'm thankful for that. And I just want to continue. I'm trying not to experience like FOMO and like get super deep into like people's highlight posts, be envious and compare. I just like, it is the thief of all joy. And I feel like I just fall victim to comparison a lot.
Yeah, me too. I've actually been pretty good about not being on Facebook that much in the last couple of weeks. I started seeing a therapist recently, actually, and that was one thing we talked about. And so she recommended this, and it's something that I'd sort of tried to do before without as much success. But after we discussed this specifically, she recommended like trying to not look at your phone, not check anything right away in the morning. So actually I've been keeping that habit up recently, which has been really good. And then also just checking it fewer times during the day. And we talked about email too, because it's like there's always, and then it's like you get a new email that's about business or whatever, something I have to take care of, and that can kind of like up anxiety or just kind of add to overwhelm. She recommended like not checking right away and then giving yourself only a couple times throughout the day to check it. So I haven't been on Facebook nearly as much. Mentally, it can really affect just your thoughts. Like you're waking up and you're looking at your phone, and so you've got other people's thoughts already intruding on your day before you've even like woken up and greeted the day. On top of that, we know that it's not all good news, especially right now. There's a lot of bad news out there, so that can just kind of bring you down.
How does it make you feel when every single action you take online is carefully monitored, recorded, and data mined?
It's so creepy.
And that they're actually like monitoring what image you stop at and look at and for how long you're looking at it?
That is so creepy to me.
I mean, I didn't really give too much thought into that.
That freaks me out. I hate it.
I hate it. I think it's so weird. I think it's so weird that like it's monitored like that.
It's so interesting because I took digital marketing in my last semester, and my teacher brought this up to us. The people who are behind that, like the monitoring and stuff, they can predict what you're going to buy, what you're going to do next based on like your behavior on the internet. It's freaky that there's people that know like what you want.
Why is it freaky?
Feels like an invasion of privacy to me. I believe that you should be the only one to know what you're going to do next. You know what I mean? Unless you're telling someone.
Yeah.
Being monitored, that's kind of, it's weird.
But we sign up for that, don't we?
Of course, you know, as soon as we sign up for a social media network, we do. People don't read the fine print, but it's true. But even the internet, do we sign up for that? That's what I was curious about. Like, what about just like browsing, the internet? What about private mode on like iPhones? Like, do you think that's really private?
Yeah, I can't know. I don't really.
You know what I mean? I also believe that they listen in on everything you do. It's not just what you browse. I went into a store for like health and beauty and stuff. Like they sell like beauty products and all that. And I wasn't planning on going there. I was on my lunch break. I walked into the store, never had a conversation with anyone, didn't search anything online like weeks before or days before that I was going to go to the store, anything. I was just walking through the city and I saw the store and I said, oh, that looks interesting. Let me go in there. I went in there and then I saw the hair dryer section. I was like, I haven't bought a new hair dryer in a long time. I think I'm going to get one. The only conversation I had about that with someone was not through the internet. It was literally like in person. Like I asked the salesperson, I was like, oh, what do you think of this hair dryer? Like, do you like it? Is it a good brand? Like, and they were telling me all about it. I bought it. I went back to my office. I go on my Instagram and like the first ad I see is for this hair dryer. That freaked me out. People are either listening to my conversations or if they could predict that I did all that, that's kind of crazy.
My brother works a job where he does like the data engineering for this type of thing. It's crazy. I've had conversations with him where he's like, yeah, I don't condone it, but like, I'm not directly doing this to people. I'm like, okay. I won't say his name to protect his identity, but being educated about it and like knowing the whole process of how they do it and why they do it, I think knowing the workings of it makes me not be as freaked out about it. You can look at it in a way where it's like someone's watching your every move, but then you can look at it in a way where it's like it's an algorithm, it's a tracking like data collecting program that's just trying to target advertisements at you to sell shit, you know? So
Yeah.
I try to think of it in that way, where it's like, that's just someone's job. It's not like they're trying to steal some people out there are trying to steal people's identity,
Yeah.
but for the most part, it's not like they're trying to steal my identity. This is not like a Black Mirror episode to the max.
But I guess in the wrong hands, it would be a different story.
Yeah, absolutely, because
then the infrastructure is there.
it makes it very easy for really scary things to happen.
Right. Like influencing elections and stuff.
It feels like an invasion of privacy. You know, the programmers or the government, like whoever's getting this information, advertisers, you know, they're watching my every move.
I don't read the terms and agreements of these apps, but I'm sure all that verbiage is included and we willfully sign up.
It's intentionally made that way so that we don't sit there and read it. They're not going to put it neatly like, we're selling your information to advertisers. They're going to put all this like legal jargon that they have to include, but they're going to bury it in all this other stuff so that we're just like, okay, skip. One thing that frustrates me, because I've talked to, and this was way before Facebook got so invasive, you know, there were just like smaller things like, oh, they can track you on your phone, or the government can see what you search on the internet no matter what and stuff. And I remember talking with my family and some other people about this, and their response just baffled me, because they were just like, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care that the government's spying on you? What do you mean? Like, that's not acceptable. Everyone still has a right to privacy. The other side, because I was telling another friend about this recently, because with recent events, we were talking about Black Lives Matter and everything. And that argument too, that if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care if someone's looking at you? Like, the thing about it is that historically looking back, like doing something wrong at times has meant like having a homosexual relationship, doing things that aren't condoned by straight, white, cisgender men that are Christian. Like there's religious persecution. There's like all these things we could get into that like just not being a straight white male could get you in trouble, like being an independent woman, you know, like, so to be like, oh, you're not doing anything wrong, you'll be fine. It's like, well, just existing for a lot of us is wrong according to a lot of like history. I have a lot of problems with that argument, and that's why it does really freak me out, like the government knowing so much about me and all my pictures and all these things.
Do you think it is a little bit like too much reporting or too much watching my actions, but in the sense of what the app needs to know about you, like so that it can show you like certain ads or like certain profiles? I get it. I get why that kind of action would be monitored. So it doesn't really bother me.
It kind of makes you more aware of what you're kind of obsessing over too.
Yeah, my explore page.
Mm-hmm.
It's embarrassing.
All of mine is memes. Talking about Geminis. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Mine's just a bunch of men with six packs, and it's like ridiculous. It's like,
I
promise
that.
you I'm looking at other things. I promise you.
Yeah, right.
That's why I don't like Alexa.
My husband brought home an Alexa, and I was freaking out. And he's like, I'm going to keep it in our bedroom. I'm like, absolutely not.
They're not going to suggest Adam and Eve products. No, I'm kidding.
No. The only thing we use it for, I know you could do so many things with it, but we only use it for playing music.
My cousin's always like, Echo, shut up.
I actually do that too. I did that in front of my husband the first time. He was like waiting to see if it works. Like he's like, wait, saying shut up to her will make her stop playing the song. And I'm like, yes.
I love how everybody, like, they don't just say like, stop. Like everybody's go-to is to say shut up. Even my mom, she's like, Alexa, shut up.
Shut up.
I'm like, you're so mean. Like, why?
Like, Alexa has a soul. I'm just kidding.
Alexa gets told shut up like by millions of people.
Like when I say that, I don't even notice it, that I'm being like a bitch pretty much. But I'm like, wow, like now you put that into perspective for me.
I think we all want somebody or something to tell shut up to just to get it out.
Yeah, that's true.
So do you feel addicted to social media? Do you go down the rabbit hole? Do you feel isolated when you scroll?
I feel like I'm
I do.
Yes.
Or
I think all of us are.
Like sometimes if I'm mindlessly scrolling, it's because I'm anxious or
yeah,
it's usually because I'm anxious. Because every other emotion, I'm never really like, it's not the word bored. Like I don't know if it's bored. I think it's anxious.
me too. I think the anxiety like forces me to like do this, and then it just makes it worse because I'm then comparing myself to these relationship goals couples.
There are times that I definitely go down the rabbit hole with social media. Actually, it's interesting because that happens to me more with YouTube. I'm such a YouTube person.
Me too.
When I watch like YouTube videos, they'll just be next one, and they're all related. And I'm like, oh, this is.
And they're all like at least 10-15 minutes long.
And I go from like how to braid my hair to like a video of someone telling me their life story, and I'm like listening to it, and it's like an hour long, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like I'll stop and I'm like, why am I doing doing this. I just spent the whole hour listening to some random person talk about their life.
I know, me too.
It's mesmerizing.
So would you call that an addiction? I mean, do you feel addicted to social media?
Absolutely. Think about if your phone is broken. Like everybody has had that moment where their phone broke and they needed to wait 24 hours for a new phone to come. You know, if they're fortunate enough to have a MacBook or, you know, to have an iPhone where they can like stream their text messages to their MacBook, like they'll use that. Why can't I just stay a day without communicating with people through my phone? It's definitely an addiction, I think. I just think people don't want to call it that because there's such a negative stigma connected to addiction. I don't know. I go through weird phases. So, you know, everything is not what it seems.
I feel like I don't need to go to rehab for it yet. I'm not at that stage.
I like that answer.
I think the fact that I'm able to like recognize when I need to like delete the apps and like do these things, putting the phone in the drawer. I think the fact that I'm able to recognize when it's getting a little too much.
You're a functioning addict.
Yeah. Triggered.
I live for this.
He got me, y'all. He got me.
I don't need rehab yet. I got it under control.
The first step is admitting you have a problem.
Right. There's many steps after that. Was it 12?
12 steps. Honestly, there's going to be a program out there, I'm sure, for like social media addicts. There should be a program out there. The 12-step program to breaking free from Instagram.
I'm going to be there in rehab like,
just one more tweet.
somebody like this.
Put the phone down, Alex. No.
I need to get 100 likes.
Triple digits.
Especially during like quarantine, all of us, we have spare time on our hands. So it's nothing to do but to watch Netflix and scroll and watch YouTube. Sometimes you need to take time out that day just to meditate or stretch or, you know, write that song that you haven't wrote that you've been thinking about to that beat, or dance it out or work on that choreography you know you haven't finished. What else do you have to do, honey? Because I know you got lots of stuff to do.
It's a long list.
It's a long list, okay? Like you said, it's a learning lesson. Like we're all working on ourselves and like we know what's wrong, but it takes longer to actually fix what's wrong. Even my mom, I see my mom post on Facebook and I'm like, girl, stop it. Like it is 8 a.m. in the morning. No one needs to know that you're rising and grinding with your coffee on your way to work. No one needs to know.
Yes,
We all
Mom.
do it. We all do slight things, whether it's like taking a picture of our food or with our friends or talking about our
I
accomplishments.
try to
Like,
catch myself. I'm like, do I need to whip out my phone right now? Like, why do I feel the need to do that? Like, is this really worth it? Like, sometimes I catch myself.
It wasn't until I was outside of America, I was in Cuba, and I just left my phone at home. Every day we went out, I saw the most beautiful places, the most coolest restaurants, but I wasn't sharing it with anybody. And it wasn't for anybody to see but myself. Private and personal moment. And I feel like there's so many times where we let people in that we don't even really know in on very private details of our lives. And I'm like, this is too much information.
But like, if you didn't take a picture of it and upload it, like, did it happen?
People think that it didn't happen, but for me, it happened. I had a great time.
The past few weeks are kind of an exception because I've been a lot more intentional with it. This like helps and hinders because I've never gotten the Facebook app actually on my phone. I log in on Google Chrome or whatever, but I've never had the app for Facebook on my phone. I use it on my desktop, which I think it can pull you in even more just because it's like you're sitting there and you're scrolling, and instead of like just starting to write or starting to check my email or whatever I need to do, it'll be like, oh, I'll just Facebook. And it's like before I'm even like thinking about it consciously, I'm like typing in Facebook on my browser. And once I've logged on, hours will just fly by. I was just going to be on here for 5 minutes, you know, really quick, and then get on with my day and do the work I need to do or whatever. And instead it's like, oh, now it's like 4 p.m. Just been on Facebook all day. I have a problem with that. Twitter, I don't get on much. Instagram's a little different, I feel like, but it can still take that time. Facebook, to me, it's all noise. So much there. It's like you've got your news feed with people, but then you have notifications that you can click on. They'll take you to something else. And then you have groups, and then there's like messages. And Instagram, with the way it's laid out, is so different and so much simpler. And that's why I'm a lot more attracted to it. You can scroll through people's pictures, you can check stories, and you can post those things, but that's pretty much it.
You brought up a good point. I didn't think about it like that because I see Facebook and then I try to like look away talking about it. Just, I'm trying to think of like where my eyes go when I first get onto the dashboard.
It's a distraction. I just think it's such a distraction. I think about my nieces and nephews who are like, my oldest is 6. When she's playing a game on an app or if she's like watching a YouTube video, like she's literally not physically there.
Right.
Like I'll be talking to her and she does not hear a word I say, and she's only 6, and that's alarming. And then like my little brother, he's a little older, but he's almost 10 years younger than me. He's 19 now, but the way that his generation is and the way he acts, like he's so much more antisocial than like we were when we were that age. Like, you know, have a conversation, have like a physical conversation with someone, like go up to someone and like be like, hey, you want to go have a drink? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like that with them, and it's scary. That's also really scary. You know, Gary V.
Yeah.
You follow him? So I watch a lot of his videos, and I did see something that made me think about that, because I always thought, oh, negative about it. In a way, there are people who will argue with me and say, no, it actually makes them more social, because back in the day, you could only make friends in person. And now people don't have to make friends in person. They can make friends with a person in India. You know what I mean? And they don't feel alone. I do agree with that. So like, it really is, it depends what your definition of being social is. For me, it's physical. Like if you're not physically social with someone, you're antisocial, because it's easy to go on a phone and talk to somebody. And I just think it's so much easier to do that than to physically talk to someone.
I don't know if it's part of my like love language, but like I also just like, you know, conversation and like being physically like with people.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same way. And it's not about being like introverted or extroverted. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I was going to say it could also affect you getting a job, but at the same time, that's also changing, because now we can just go on Zoom and have an interview.
What do you think of political polarization thanks to the algorithms showing you more of what you want to see and agree with?
That's a hard question. I don't know. Alex, I didn't have my coffee yet.
I think for someone who's on the fence politically, it could be tricky, because if like the algorithm just starts like steering a certain way, it can make your mind up without you even realizing. Whereas I think if someone is consuming content on these apps, and I think if they have their mind made up and they are solid in their beliefs, I don't think there's a problem with the algorithm gearing towards whatever belief system you're with.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You bring up a good point. It's like we're no longer like neutral. It's now we're kind of leaning far left or far right.
I do have a friend who was kind of neutral. Now they're kind of leaning towards a certain path with the climate of the world at the moment, like in the last few months. And it's been interesting to watch them kind of go through this process, because they came from a very conservative place growing up and family and stuff. So like watching them kind of like shift has been interesting, because you wonder, is it the people around you? Is it the content you're consuming? Is it like, what is it that's causing it? You know, and I think it's a mixture of both.
I don't know if that's like accurate. I don't know if it's just me, but I get shown stuff that I don't want to see. But it's also because I think my political views have been changing so often. I think people are scared to admit it, but there's a lot of people who have been changing their views. You see all this information and then you're like, wait, let me do my research. And then you're like, wait, they're right. So do I really agree with this, or do I not agree with this? I think this is an age of like finding out what you really believe in. And like, I honestly have always been a neutral. I've never really been a political person. I've always tried to stay away from that. I think a lot of people do. And then you get older and you're like, wait, you know, I'm 28. Like, I think I should start like thinking about what I want to do, like politically, like meaning like what side I want to be on. That's the right thing to do as an American. That's like, you know, the adult thing to do. But it's hard because you have all these like opposing views, all this information being thrown at you. And you get, I mean, I personally get very overwhelmed, and like, I already suffer from anxiety, and like, that gives me anxiety. Like when I see certain things, like, I'm like, oh my God, like I wish I could just unsee them.
I get triggered.
Yes, exactly. That's the word, triggered.
I'm building up anxiety like from all of this stuff. You're not necessarily experiencing political polarization as much as other people, I guess.
If I spoke for myself, I don't think I have, but I could see how it could be a problem.
You seem to be open to following people who have different views.
Political wise, yes. It depends on their relationship with me too. I have friends who don't believe in certain things that I believe in politically. I don't like to argue. Like, I'm not one to sit there and be like, well, that's not the right thing to do, because I don't believe that that's my place.
So you respect their views, they respect yours?
Yes, 100%. Have I had people not respect my views? Absolutely. I've had messages in my inbox like why'd you post this? Like, do you know that this is not right? Whatever. You know, I think everybody has gone through that recently. But I try to like be civil about it and go about my day. And that's it. And I'm like, if you don't want to see my content, don't follow me. I'm not going to argue with someone's point of view. I'm just going to unfollow them. If it triggers something all the time, like, I don't want that. But if it's like a friend or someone that I'm close to, I'm not going to unfollow them because of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ruin my friendship or like my relationship with the person just because their political view is different.
That's respectable.
Yeah, I think it's a major problem. It can make the divide seem a lot bigger. Only our confirmation bias confirmed is that we don't understand how extreme some people on the other side can be, and we don't really understand how they're thinking. If we're trying to reach across the aisle or getting them to just understand our point of view, I think not seeing that in our feed can really close us off to that.
What do you think the consequences of that is? That we're not interacting enough with people with opposing views?
That just adds to the polarization and makes the divide even deeper. As people move closer to one side, they just interact less and less with people with differing views.
I mean, the consequences are the results of 2020. We're divided as people. We're extremely divided. Like, it's so hard to have a conversation. It's so hard for other people to like be around people that are not like them, which is why I'm like grateful that like me and you can always have conversations. We're so different, but we're so alike. We should be able to be in rooms with different people and hear their opinions and not bash them. Like there has to be some type of way that we can have conversations with people even if we disagree.
It's great advice, but I don't think it's practical.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
Oh, so see, I've been actually doing the opposite. I've been recently like deleting people or like muting people on Instagram who I feel don't have similar beliefs. Personally, I'm at a point where I don't want to argue my opinion or bash anybody, but I also don't want to be triggered by any ignorance. And I'm willing to learn from people, but not to the extent where I'm enabling somebody's ignorant thoughts.
Wow, that was
And that's like my boundary. Like I'm like, I don't want to, you can have your opinion, but I don't want to bash you or hate you for it. I can understand it, but it's not mine.
I've started following Black Lives Matter posts and accounts and stuff and a few different hashtags. And that's changed my feed. I'm like getting a bunch more of that. And the algorithm then feeds me more and builds on that. So it's like, once people get into their niche or get into whatever it is they're on the internet for, and the algorithm starts picking up on that, yes, it is going to like channel them in, but it's like, it is, well, in some cases it can be like a bubble. Again, that's kind of up to the individual to diversify their sources and stuff.
I'm glad that you brought up the diversification of sources.
You have to break out of that echo chamber. It's kind of like in the physical realm, your home. You have your comfortable stuff around you. It's like stuff that makes you happy and you get along with and feel good. But then like you also have to venture out in the world and experience things. That's how you find other sources of beauty, good things, but yes, also other like bad things too. Again, when you're on the internet, you don't have to engage. You don't have to. It's very easy on the internet to just walk away. Remembering that and holding that power, there are certain times where I'm like, I'm not in a good place. If I go online right now, it's just not going to get better. Like I logged out of Instagram for 24 hours a couple of days ago. I would catch myself by habit just going to the app, but because I had logged out, I was like, oh, right, I'm not doing that.
Who's going to take the time of their day to be like, oh, gotta look up something that I would never normally look up, or gotta like something that, like I wouldn't wake up and like think about doing that every day.
Right. So people wouldn't necessarily take that advice because like there's already so much like crap and noise and negativity happening in the world that when we do have time on social media, we just want to fill ourselves up with more of what we agree with.
I guess in a way, yes, because think about like the people you follow and like the content they share. Like I've had to unfollow people because they started sharing content that I didn't like. I was following this comedian and then he started getting very political and he started sharing homophobic stuff. And that's where I was like, no. And I basically unfollowed him because I was like, I don't want to see his shit. And it was sad because I liked him as a comedian, but that was like, nope, it just was completely against my views. And I was like, I don't want to see his stuff anymore. So I guess that goes with anything. Like if you see a brand and you don't like their stuff, you're not going to follow them. You're not going to like their stuff.
I think I agree with following people who have different opinions just so you could kind of see the other side of the spectrum and try to understand. I think it is important when you have contrasting ideas about certain things. I think it is really important to dive into, okay, what is their thought process? Why do they feel this way? Also, I think that's just a natural thing that I do as an actor because we have to break down the script, read between
the lines. Do you go to the other side?
A little bit, like a lot of the conspiracy theory type stuff that's going around. Like I find myself being like, oh my God, like this bullshit. At the same time, I'm like, I want to see where these people are coming from. So I do the research. I do spend a good amount of time seeing where people come from. I don't say I'll necessarily follow them. I don't want that shit on my feed all the time, but I'll actively go out and search and like do a little research. I think not only it helps to understand where other people are coming from, but like once I research like the conspiracy theories and stuff, like a lot of them, I did a lot of homework and I researched, but I still disagreed. And so that helps me in my stance. Like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but this is why I disagree. Whereas a lot of the older generation, they're like, this is what I believe and I don't care what you say, this is what I believe. And it's like, you throw them a fact and they're like, no, I don't want to hear it. I think it's important to understand where other people are coming from so that you can have a valid reason for disagreeing, The
implied point is that it'll break through your confirmation bias. So you will think about things politically, maybe differently. Even if it's not like changing your entire view. It's just like you're seeing how the other side sees things. That makes sense to me. On the other hand, I don't really agree with that part where it's like, oh, follow someone you don't like, that you're not interested in, you're not inspired by. I think the best thing about social media is that we can follow people that inspire us and that make us want to be better. Like I look at Ava DuVernay or someone like that, and I'm just like, yes, like everything she's posting about her life and all her film work and everything she's doing. And I follow a lot of, filmmakers like that, where it's, that's inspiring. So it's like, that's the type of person I want to be like. and that's what I want to do for my career. So to say you should do the opposite, or you should follow a bunch of people you don't like, that don't inspire you, I think would make it even worse. Like all the problems we're talking about, that makes it worse. Following some people you don't like, or people you don't agree with politically, maybe, I think that's an interesting point, and that makes more sense to me, just so you're seeing other viewpoints.
Each person deserves to state their boundary if they want to be that person to mediate, or, to, have a conversation. I feel like so many people might not be in the right space, to have those conversations. I think if you know you're not in the right space and you need healing, then remove yourself from it until you are healed. There's no way you can have a positive conversation about something you're not healed from. You're just going to be defensive, not really receive the information. It'll just be bashing. I definitely believe that it's really cool to see other people's opinions that are not yours, because I feel like so many of us only stay around, including myself, people that think like us. I do follow other pages of people that I admire.
So the film doesn't provide answers or solutions. Can you think of any?
I think the heads of these companies need to take responsibility. They're the ones that came up with these algorithms. They're the ones that came up with all these like really damaging things that are attached to these social media platforms. I think they need to take responsibility, and I think they need to come up with it. I personally can't come up with it because I ain't that smart. I'm pretty smart, but I'm not that smart. I think one way is to find another way to make revenue. The social media platforms, most of their revenue comes from advertising. That's why they sell our data to the advertising companies to like target certain groups and people. I think if they came up with a different way of creating revenue, don't ask me for money though. find another way. It's not me and it's not advertising. Figure it out. I'm paying for Instagram, so figure it out.
Me neither.
I think it's up to them. I think it's really in their hands. I think they really created a monster and they need to figure out a way to tame the monster.
Damn. I know what that's about.
I've been shooting guns. I got aim.
Oh, you better watch out. That Matrix shit.
What Instagram started, which I don't see is effective or enabled on all accounts, is removing the ability to see the amount of likes that a post has, which helps as well, because then you're looking at a post and you're like, well, why did they get that many likes and I didn't get like that in itself creates a whole nother problem and starts creating insecurities for people. So that is one thing, but also, to help curb the negative effects, definitely like trying to put time limits on things. I do like that most apps now have like a screen time feature where you can track and see how long you've been on there. Now, if there was a way to actually like enforce it, like say like maybe the app shut down or like won't open if you've been on it that long, I think that's great. Like for example, like playing Candy Crush. I don't know if you play Candy Crush. I feel like everybody has played Candy Crush at some point. You cannot play it for hours and hours and hours because like once you run out of lives or whatever, then the app will say like, okay, you have to wait like a half an hour, you have to wait an hour or something until your lives refill. So then it's like, okay, well, I can't even be on the app doing anything unless I want to pay. And now I have to get off the app until this thing refills, or you could pay for more lives. So like if they did something similar to that, I think that would be a really effective method just to help with people's mental health. And if it was like, okay, you already spent an hour on Instagram, if you want to spend more time, they need to pay such and such amount, or you can wait a period of, I don't know how many hours, and then you can get back on the app.
Wow, that sounds like a really effective solution.
Because I'm not going to pay to be on the app, then I'll be like, okay, then I guess I'm not going to go on here for the rest of today, and that's it.
Right. From a societal solution, that's a great thing, but maybe from like a tech company perspective, that may not be the thing that they're interested in.
It could be good and bad, because either people are going to pay or they're not going to pay to be on it.
Right.
But at least people's like mental health would be a little bit better if they were not scrolling and comparing themselves for hours if their time was limited. Yeah.
That kind of makes me think of back when they wanted to get rid of likes, which I thought was weird. So then like we're just posting stuff and like there's no feedback,
And then we have to ask ourselves, why do we need that feedback?
Exactly.
Why do we want the likes to stay? We need the likes to gauge for like a media kit, let's say, to present to brands or...
But they did say that they would continue the views. So I feel like you could still be able to see that with the views, right? And also think about this. How come on YouTube they don't care about how many likes they got as much as they do on like Instagram. I just feel like on YouTube, like it's not about how many likes you have. That's like secondary to how many views you have normally. I don't know. Me personally, I feel like views are more important when it comes to YouTube. But then when it comes to like Instagram, it's like likes or comments. Me personally, I think comments are like important. If people aren't engaging in your post, it doesn't matter. You could easily scroll and like stuff. That doesn't mean they spend time reading your caption or like watching your video. I can't think of a solution like right off the bat, but with political polarization, I honestly think that, like I said earlier, it sounds crazy, but I don't think politics should be included in social media. I just don't think it's like safe. Yeah. It's very extreme, but I would agree with not being able to post political stuff. Like they censor so much stuff. Why can't they censor political stuff?
Well, freedom of speech, right?
Yes, but there's other things that they censor that are still under freedom of speech. So it's like, why do they pick and choose? That comes down to money at the end of the day, and who is supporting them financially.
Damn, she said it.
Yeah, it's true.
What I'm trying to do is just spend a lot less time on it. And I think that's the biggest answer. Because it's a big part of our lives, I don't know that the answer is necessarily completely deleting it or completely getting rid of it for everyone forever, you know? Severely limiting your time and being more intentional with it. That's what's really going to help. And so the more people can do that, the better. Do other things, spend time outside or spend time just like away from the screens, reading other news sites.
I wonder if we're going to see a shift like that.
I could potentially see it happening because people are getting so fed up. And I know a couple people that have left Facebook this year. I'm close to that because I'll think about it and then I'll stop and be like, well, what is that going to give me if I check it right now? Probably nothing. I can see more people leaving the platforms or leaving some of them or at least limiting their time. But I don't see everyone doing that. It's going to be interesting to see who does and who doesn't. When I picture my future self, I don't see Facebook in that future. Like having a personal profile on there, I just don't see it. I see like Instagram, again, because that's simpler, and Twitter, because that's just kind of like you can have a quick post or you can talk about like the projects you're working on, kind of promote yourself that way. But then that's it. Is a lot healthier. So I follow this one life coach. One of her strategies is just like living from your future, which is being who you want to be right now, like dressing that way, acting that way, you know, making decisions that are going to serve your future, taking care of yourself. If I don't see myself having Facebook in the future, I don't really understand why I still have it. We're still in a place where not having it is weird. And that's where I see in the future, we might get to a place where it's like there's more people that don't have Facebook or don't have certain platforms, but it's still a really strange thing to not have one. Part of it's just like fitting in too.
Being open, being vulnerable would help, but also people have to heal first to be able to receive what you say. If they're not healed, then they can't really receive any of the information you're saying. I saw this interesting video that they were doing for Black people that was experiencing like trauma and stuff like that. And they were doing healing circles. We need to do that more. I was like, well, we need to do that with more people and like make it so that everyone always feels safe in all the spaces. Like it shouldn't only be in therapy that people feel like they're in a safe space. Or it shouldn't be where you're going to a certain place that you only feel like you're in a safe space. Like all of the space should feel like a safe space. So I feel like until we get to like that point in the world where we can be compassionate, then we won't really reach that level because we won't be willing to have a conversation.
Most of it just being conscious. It's like any other tool, learning how to use it properly, using it in moderation, remembering that it's like it's a daily thing. It's not something that you like decide you're going to be good at monitoring your social media intake and stuff, and then you are. It's like, no, you have to decide and then like keep deciding.
Change the habit. You have to like catch yourself and then be aware of it. And then once the awareness is there, then you can like, make the decision. Because like I was so sucked into it for a little bit. That's where I was starting to get anxious a lot more. I was more reactive. I was more kind of depressive moods. And I just was like, oh my God, something's wrong. Like I just hit like a moment where I was like, this is not right. And then I'm like,
but sometimes it takes that like moment, you know, and you're like, okay, got to do some changes.
Thank you so much for answering my silly questions.
Not at all. I think they were great questions. I think that it got me thinking too. So it's good stuff.
You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you for being so great at answering.
Oh, I appreciate that you think I was great.
Oh my God, thank you so much for interviewing with me. I love you.
It's always a joy. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yay! Okay, that was a good interview.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
No, I appreciate you asking me. Thank you.
Of course.
I love you. Thanks for doing this.
I love you.
You're welcome. I'm happy to.
I'd like to talk about this because it affects me. And if it's affecting me, it's probably affecting somebody else that's surfing through YouTube that might come across this.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together. I'm excited to hear what else you find out and what other people have to say on it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like how it comes together. Yeah, you're like, I'm off grid. Like, I don't know.
I don't have Facebook. What do you
I hope people take inspiration from you, that one friend who like does not have Facebook.
I mean, that's what it got to, that I had a moment where I spent like 2 or 3 hours in bed on Facebook without even getting up to pee or have coffee or anything. When I finally did, I was like, never again. It's like, I obviously cannot handle this. Taking it away.
All right, love. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Ditto. I love you so much. We'll talk.
Bye.
Bye.